Hi everyone. So once again I'm coming to you from a classroom here at my university. You can see that outside we've got a nice day today. Hoping it's going to last, although the rainy season already seems to have lasted much longer than was expected or that I would have liked. Today's video goes out to Alina. Hi Alina. And she asked me in one of the Facebook groups that I'm in to talk about IELTS. And what I thought I would do is talk about the three major types of exams that English students take and give my opinions on each one. So let's start with what is, in my opinion, the devil in exam format, and that is IELTS. Personally, I refuse to teach IELTS because I fundamentally disagree with the way that it is run. Why do I have such a strong opinion? Well, I'm not a fan of any exam in which you can't fail. In an IELTS exam, you always get a score regardless of how well or how badly that you do. And so it encourages students to take the exam just in the hope of getting the score that they want. Now, none of these exams are cheap, and yet I have had students in the past who have taken the IELTS exam numerous times, way before they were ready, way before my advice or the advice of any other teacher was listened to, and then they've started to become frustrated. A lot of IELTS students don't seem to realise that you need to have the fundamental basic principles of English before you even start thinking about exam technique. And sadly, it was a big frustration of mine when I was at my previous school that the students seemed to get really obsessed by IELTS, and only by referring to the IELTS exam in my general English classes could I get some of them to switch on. Unless I said this will help you in IELTS part X, often it really wouldn't make much of a difference what I was teaching. So overall, I fundamentally disagree with IELTS and I don't recommend taking it. Now, the big argument for IELTS is that it's the only one that's accepted by some universities. And actually, I spoke with somebody from Cambridge and they told me that that's not true. That a lot of exams, a lot of universities, they want a particular level. So they might want a 7 in IELTS or equivalent from the CEFR. Now that's the Central European Framework of Reference, and usually a C1 in another exam is sufficient to get into most universities. So one thing I would recommend you do is check exactly what the requirements are for getting into a certain university, because they may well be telling you that it's IELTS that you need, when in fact another exam would be absolutely fine. Now, another argument for IELTS is that it's slightly easier than some of the other exams. That may be the case, although getting a 7 or more in IELTS is not easy. However, if you pass an easy exam and then you go on to university, which is generally what IELTS is used for, then you find that you are already behind when you start your next course. Yes, you got the grade you needed, but it's really not a strong position to be in. I was speaking with a foundation course teacher at a conference, and he was saying one of the biggest problems that he has is that students come in with the right IELTS level, but actually not the right English level. They needed to be stronger. They got the minimum that they needed in order to pass on to the university, but it wasn't enough for them to adequately deal with the demands of the course. On to the exam that I'm teaching here in Japan, which is the TOEIC. This is my first proper experience of TOEIC, and I have mixed feelings about it. In a lot of ways, I like it because you really do have to know your stuff in order to get a high score. I think the grammar part is, in my opinion, a little bit difficult. And also, it's another exam where you can't fail. So you're given a score, whatever performance that you give. I think that the major criticism that I have is that the listening part, students are only allowed to listen once, and I think it's similar in IELTS. Now, I understand that that is replicating real life, but I personally think that in an exam, students should be able to listen twice, once for overall idea and once for detail. Another downside of it is that it's multiple choice, and I have a couple of students in my class which was chosen on TOEIC scores that I think actually must have either guessed well or they are academically very good but not good at the skills like speaking and writing that they need in order to be in my class. One thing that I do like about the TOEIC exam, I really like the speaking parts. I think that they really do test a student's ability to speak in a wide range of contexts and about a range of different issues. So one of the speaking tests that they do involves proposing a solution to a problem. And that kind of thing, that kind of functional language helps them not just to pass an exam, but also to go out into the real world and survive. Finally, I'd like to talk about the exams that I've taught the most and that are my favourite, and that is the Cambridge exams. For me, to pass a Cambridge exam, you really need to have a very well-rounded set of skills. And anyone who tells me that they have passed a B2 or a C1 Cambridge, instantly I know that they must have a sound knowledge of grammar, they must have a well-developed vocabulary, and they must have reasonably well-developed or very well-developed listening skills and reading skills. It really is the complete package. And one of the reasons that I always endorse the Cambridge exams, in any conversation about exams, I will always rigorously defend the Cambridge exams, is because once you get the knowledge that you need in order to pass a Cambridge exam, yes, you may forget some words here and there, but it never really leaves you. If you pass a B2 Cambridge, then you are set up with a decent level of English for life. Simply memorizing phrases or in some cases memorizing even entire paragraphs, which I've seen students doing for IELTS, will not cut it in Cambridge. And I personally think that the goal of an exam, yes, should be to test, but also if you're doing an exam class, you shouldn't just be focusing on technique. You should still be getting a good, well-rounded English education. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I am fully expecting this to spark off debates, and that's fine. If you disagree with me about my opinions on IELTS or my opinions on Cambridge or TOEIC, then that's absolutely fine, and I would love to hear your opinions. I would ask that you keep them constructive, or at least if you've got a negative opinion, then elaborate on it so that I understand why you have that particular opinion. Because in the past I've had comments underneath my videos which are just critical but have no way of me understanding why that person was making that argument. Anyway, that's it, and I will be back very soon with another video. Take care.